Here's a hot take. A lot of horror part 3s are good. Last month I put out a video on my top horror part 2s, and much like the franchises we're going to be talking about, let's turn this into a series. So here is my top 25 horror threequels of all time. My name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Number 25, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 from 1990. This follows a couple, at least I guess they're a couple. Every synopsis I find calls them a couple. They really don't seem like one in the movie to me, but we'll go ahead and go with it. A couple of characters who are hunted and stalked through the Texas woods by Leatherface. After Tobe Hooper turned part 2 into something of a grotesque horror comedy, which I love, I'm a huge fan of, this one brings the series back to a darker, grittier tone. Most Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels are really just remakes of the first movie, and that's definitely what this one feels like in a lot of ways. I can't say I'm a huge fan of it. I don't think it's an interesting movie. It's incredibly simple, but I think it's pretty effective. It's actually got some really cool, frightening, shocking moments to it. Kate Hodge, as our leading final girl, is pretty good in the role, and she's a character who fights back really hard, which makes it easy to be on her side. You got Ken Foree in a supporting role, which is great, and Viggo Mortensen, a very young Viggo Mortensen early in his career. A drawback to it is, even though it has tension, it does have scares, it's got some heart-thumping, jump-scaring sequences. The movie's not actually that violent. It originally had an X rating and it got a ton of cuts by the MPAA, and the result definitely feels cut down. While the original is also not terribly graphic, it's so well directed it gets away with it, and I don't think this one as much does. Now, it does have an unrated cut that's available on home video, and I think I saw it a long time ago, but I don't actually own it, so I need to buy that and check it out again. But as is, I think this is a pretty good threequel.
He says that death awaits all who disturb the resting place of Carter Bay.
24, The Mummy's Shroud from 1967. This is the third film in Hammer's Mummy series, and it's about some archaeologists who revive a cursed mummy guarding a young prince's tomb. Well, the second film in the series is, I think, just a little too lackluster. This one, while not being super different, finds ways to be a lot more entertaining. It's directed by John Gilling, who's a regular director of Hammer films that I tend to really like. It's starring Andre Morel, who's one of my favorite Hammer actors, and I really do like the mummy here. While the typical version of a mummy tends to have bandages on its face, most mummy movies don't actually depict the mummy that way, and this one does. He's got the bandages. Maybe it makes him look a little bit more cheap, but I like it. It's a classic kind of look. It's fun to watch him stumble around, chasing people, killing them. And at the end of the movie, when he gets his comeuppance, I guess slight spoilers, the mummy's not going to win in here, his death sequence is really cool. I love the effects of it. The characters are pretty solid. They're likable, especially for how they oppose the main guy's father, who's this greedy millionaire, the typical selfish character in a horror movie that you're just waiting for him to get his comeuppance. And it's just got that classic Hammer feel, using a lot of reused sets from a lot of the Hammer films. If you like these kind of movies, I think this is a fun one. 23, Jaws 3D from 1983. A giant 35-foot shark becomes trapped in a SeaWorld theme park, and it's up to the sons of Police Chief Brody to save everyone. Now, this is usually looked at as a terrible movie. It has a really bad reputation, and if at best I think it's known as so bad it's good, I don't agree, guys. I do really like this movie. I really enjoy it, despite its very obvious shortcomings. But first of all, let's look at the cast of characters. I really like these people. I mean, you've got Dennis Quaid in here, probably one of my favorite charismatic movie stars. He's always fun to watch. Leah Thompson in a really fun role. I actually think Bess Armstrong kind of steals the movie as Dennis Quaid's girlfriend and the lead biologist at the theme park. She's great. She's just really strong, very likable. And man, it's just fun to have a movie set in a SeaWorld theme park. That's a great kind of atmosphere. It just feels like good old-fashioned summer fun watching this whole movie. And the idea of a shark getting caught in there and eating people is ridiculous, of course. It's incredibly stupid, but I think that just makes it popcorn enjoyment. Sure, maybe it's a terrible trend for horror part 3s to be 3D. This isn't going to be the last one on this list like that. I think it's charming. Now, the movie is never that thrilling. It's never scary. I think the effects are just too bad for the shark to ever feel like that much of a threat. The 3D effects are terrible, but I'm charmed by that kind of thing when it's just old school. I'd still love to see this in an actual theater in true 3D. I think that would be a blast. This is just one of those cheesy little movies that I'm a big fan of. Ginger Snaps Back, The Beginning, from 2004. The third film in the Ginger Snap series is actually a prequel, and the strange thing about it is it very much plays the story of the original Ginger Snaps about two sisters and one of them turning into a werewolf, just about their ancestors in 1800s Canada feeling like the Old West, a Western. It's a strange idea, but I do really like it. Now, I just tend to be a fan of horror movies that have this type of old period piece atmosphere. It's also snowy. If that wasn't good enough, we've also got all the snow all around, and I love a good wintry horror film. Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins are as good as these characters as they ever were, and they've got a lot of conflicts to deal with, not just with werewolfism, but also with the men in this traitor's fort, and who can they trust? Who has ill intentions? There's a lot of tension, a lot of drama. Not a lot of werewolves on screen, which is probably my biggest complaint with it, but I do think we still get some gnarly effects, some pretty creepy werewolf designs, especially like halfway transformed werewolves. I think those look the coolest. This is a good one.
Because you are not dealing with a sequel. You are dealing with the concluding chapter of a trilogy.
Scream 3.
21, Scream 3. From 2000. This one takes our core Scream characters to Hollywood, set on the set of Stab 3, the meta horror franchise within the Scream universe, and another Ghostface killer is going around trying to kill everybody. Now, this is one of those weird movies that I think some people will think is criminally low just because the Scream franchise is incredibly popular. But this is also maybe the least popular movie in the franchise, so some think it's terrible. And I'm in the middle. I think it's good. I have an enjoyable time with it. This Scream franchise is just always entertaining, even when it's not that great. The cast of characters are as good as ever. Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox with a highly questionable haircut. But you know, we probably can't look past it, but we can still like the movie. Especially because it's on the set of a horror movie, we get even more opportunities for meta commentary than ever, even with the characters having their doppelgangers, actors that are playing them in the film. And you get standout supporting performances with Lance Henriksen and Patrick Dempsey. I think my biggest problem with it is it's the goofiest of all the Scream movies. It's going for the most comedy, and I prefer my Scream a little more serious, but still got a crazy Ghostface, crazy kills, and a really good opening scene. Kicking off the top 20, Friday the 13th Part 3D from 1982. This is probably the most notable 3D Part 3 in horror history. This is the one that I want to see the most in a theater. I would just absolutely love that. In true 3D, it would be glorious. But other than the 3D, I find this to be one of the least notable Friday the 13th movies. Most all of the other films have something going on that kind of makes them stand out, and I don't feel like this one does. It's like the most standard, classic, is what it is, Friday the 13th movie ever made. And as a big fan of this franchise, I like that. It's the one where Jason finally gets the hockey mask, the one where he truly becomes the iconic slasher killer that we know and love today. It's got a pretty decent group of characters with our central campers, including Shelley, perhaps a questionable character, but you know, he's kind of iconic at this point. A strange group of bikers, some pretty annoying hillbillies, but I do actually really like Dana Kimmel as the final girl, not as much as I like her in little known slasher Sweet 16, which I think she's fantastic in. Not fantastic here, but pretty darn good. It does drag at points, but the third act is some of the most fun 80s slasher goodness you're ever gonna see. 19, Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest from 1995. I may very well be overrating this movie out of recency bias because I just recently discovered it. But wow, I had a blast with this completely insane movie. I talk about a lot of bonkers horror movies, but this one is like another level of bonkers. Now, it's about a couple of kids from the country, children of the corn, shall we say, who get adopted by a couple in Chicago. So it's the rural corn cult meeting the urban atmosphere. And I think there's a lot to be enjoyed about that culture clash. The older brother is a really likable protagonist who assimilates well into his new life, his new surroundings, while the younger brother holds on to the cult and the old ways and starts to build back his cult. It feels like good old-fashioned 90s cult horror that's just competent enough, but it's really just all the crazy stuff that happens that makes me love it. So many kills that are absolutely bananas, monsters, killer scarecrows, one of the craziest third acts I've ever seen in my life. I was shocked at how far this movie goes. I'm rating it this high because it's just so entertaining.
Alive, you mean? Yes, alive, alive!
18, Son of Frankenstein from 1939. Now, I love and adore the Universal Frankenstein series, and I think this is a really good sequel. It brings back Boris Karloff as the monster. It's the last time he would play the character in one of these movies. Unfortunately, it brings him a step back that he no longer talks like in Bride of Frankenstein. He's no longer a protagonist, a true character, but just a silent, lumbering monster. And the movie itself does pull the series back. It's not as great as those first two James Whale movies by any means. Perhaps its greatest flaw, other than Karloff's lack of speech, is it's really long. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, which is shockingly long for a Universal Monsters movie. And I do think you feel it. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. While Karloff takes a backseat, Bela Lugosi takes a front seat. He plays Igor. He is a spectacular, true main villain of this piece. It's one of the greatest performances he ever gave. A lot of people think it is his greatest performance. And while I can't let go of Dracula for that spot, I totally understand why people would say it about this movie. Basil Rathbone plays the son of Frankenstein, and he is a gloriously maniacal mad doctor in here. And the sets, the visuals, the cinematography, it's absolutely beautiful. There are a few things that I really wish could be changed about this movie to make it truly great and stand up to its predecessors, but as it is, I really like it. 17, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth from 1992. Now, of all these movies, this is the one that I've had the biggest turnaround on. I rewatched it leading up to this, and I remembered kind of hating the movie. One, because it's stupid. And it is. I'm not going to say I changed my mind on that exactly. But also that my memory was this awful, obnoxious, D-bag club owner was the protagonist of the movie. And guys, I came to find that is not true. Like, it's not even close to true. This reporter is the main character, and a good main character. I think this guy, because he made such an impression on me, because how much I hated him, was like the only character I remembered from this movie. But man, it's a good time. For the first half, it feels like a pretty standard Hellraiser movie, and I mean that in a good way. It is dark, it's violent, it's got the Cenobites coming back through this grotesque statue, this evil man bringing them back, this likable protagonist trying to help out his ex-girlfriend and figure out what's going on. And then the second half goes absolutely insane. It kind of goes to like Children of the Corn 3 territory, with Pinhead building a new group of Cenobites out of people that he killed, including this CD shooting Cenobite that has become so iconic for the series by now. That like, I think all we Hellraiser fans just have to embrace the CD killer at this point. I think the biggest problem with this movie is I don't understand the character of Pinhead in here. I feel like he's kind of out of character here than he is in the first two movies, turned into more just like a basic horror villain. But Doug Bradley still rules. He looks awesome. He's a great villain. So I can suspend logic and just have a great time with Hellraiser 3. Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss from 1990. While this has been announced to be coming out on 4K pretty soon, it's still pretty difficult to see, although I think there's a copy of it streaming right here on YouTube. The only time I've seen this movie is in a packed theater full of horror fans at a horror marathon I attended, so I'm a little bit biased in how much I like it, but I had a spectacularly great time with Prom Night 3. It is a full-on horror comedy. It's very silly. It's very ridiculous, but I think it is incredibly effective at being hilarious. I think it has so many great jokes in here. Now, the plot is about a high schooler who's struggling with the fact that he's incredibly average. I know he's got really big problems. And along comes Mary Lou, the ghostly antagonist of Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, back from the dead to seduce him and use him to kill off lots of people in this school. It's very macabre in a lot of its humor, and I think it works really well. I like all the actors. Even when the acting is weak, it's in a really charming way. There's a sequence where the school turns into hell, like literally, and that's absolutely wild. I just think this movie is one of the most fun horror comedies I've ever seen. Can't recommend it enough. Final Destination 3 from 2006. There are 3 Final Destination movies that are practically tied for being my favorite in the series. The first one, the last one, Bloodlines, and this one. I love these movies, man. The Final Destination series, well, none of them I think are like masterpieces or some of my favorite horror movies of all time. They're just really effective. They have a really good formula to just make enjoyable horror movies. This one I love, partially just because it's starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's phenomenal. Like, who on earth doesn't love Mary Elizabeth Winstead? She's a great protagonist here, and I love the whole opening sequence. And opening sequences are monumentally important for this franchise. Here it's at a carnival, man. I love horror movies set at a carnival. You get a good chunk of the movie set at this one. I mean, how can you not love a movie about a roller coaster catastrophe? That rules. So it's just got a really good atmosphere, good characters, great death scenes. This movie could not be more fun. Number 14, Fear Street, 1666. From 2021. I'm a big fan of the Fear Street trilogy that all dropped on Netflix. That was a great time to be a horror fan. I mean, every week during that month, there was a new Fear Street movie dropping, and I liked them all, but I may be the oddball here. This one's my favorite, partially because I'm such a big fan of folk horror, and this is really going for a Puritan village in the 1600s, Robert Eggers' The Witch kind of feel, and I love that type of atmosphere. It's one of my favorite vibes for a horror film, but it also made me realize I wish there was more period piece folk horror that was like breezy teen horror popcorn entertainment. And I know those things don't seem like they would go together well, but I think they go together really well here with all the teenagers in the village going out into the woods to party, and then the devil comes upon them and witchcraft and all that good old-fashioned stuff. But I also love this one because it brings the whole story together. It brings the whole trilogy together, and I think it does it really well. It's got a very satisfying wrap-up. You cannot watch this one alone. You absolutely have to watch it after you've seen the first two, but if you have, I think it ends up being really satisfying. Lucky number 13, Child's Play 3. From 1991. This one's a really different direction to take this series. It still follows Andy Barclay, but while he was a little kid in the first two movies, this jumps ahead in time a bit to when he's a teenager and actually having to go away to military school. Kind of random, but I think it ends up being a really good setting for one of these movies because he does have a lot of obstacles he has to overcome in a military school. Bullies, hard-headed faculty, just a lot of people around giving him a hard time. But then when you know it, Chucky is back and trying to get revenge from him and get a new body and all that classic kind of Chucky stuff. Brad Dourif, as great as always as Chucky. He's got some good kill scenes in here. Some lackluster ones where he just kind of uses a firearm and like, that's not super creative for a slasher movie. But what is really creative is the end of the film, the third act, that much like with Final Destination 3 taking place at a carnival, this one does as well, specifically in a haunted maze, haunted roller coaster kind of ride with lots of spectacular Halloween-y kind of atmosphere in there. That sequence alone is enough to make me love this movie, but I really just love the whole thing. Terrifier 3 from 2024. Now, I've only seen this one once, just when it came out in theaters last year, but I'm so looking forward to watching it again this Christmas season, because this is a Christmas movie. And I think I was one of the only people on earth who, after seeing the first two Terrifier movies taking place during Halloween, was hoping they would give Halloween a rest for the next movie and make it a Christmas film. I just thought Art the Clown in a Santa Claus suit would look so cool. And I can't believe I got my wish. I can't believe that's what they did. And like the first two movies went all out with their Halloween atmosphere, this one does for Christmas. It's got a great Christmas vibe to it. I also appreciate how it uses the holiday to deal with family, with our sibling characters coming back together, trying and struggling to move on, and joining up with some extended family members as well. And it's awesome, man. It is such a blast, while also being incredibly sick and twisted. And this is not the kind of thing you should watch if you're even the least bit squeamish about violence and gore. I think you probably know that by now. But for me personally, these Terrifier movies are so extremely over the top that I just have fun with it for the most part. I can't take these movies seriously. I can't view them as realistic. There still are times, even though I have fun with this for the most part, where it just goes a little too far and I end up getting pretty sickened. Like the thing with the rats in this movie was kind of too much for me, but I commend that. I respect that they're able to do that to me. David Howard Thornton rules as Art the Clown. Lauren Levera is a fantastic protagonist, and I cannot wait for the final showdown in Terrifier 4. Psycho 3 from 1986. Here we follow Norman Bates fully back to his old ways, managing the Bates Motel, but here he brings in to help a very mentally disturbed nun who he believes resembles one of his former victims, Marion Crane, and he begins to fall for her. This is a really interesting sequel because Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins, has always been really sympathetic, and I absolutely love this character. I love Anthony Perkins so much. He's sympathetic in the first movie because we don't know he's the killer until the end of the film. In the second film, he's still sympathetic because we're rooting for him to rebuild his life, and we don't even know if the murders being perpetrated are actually by him. By this one, we know he's a murderer. We know he's doing the killings that happen in this, and there's some graphic killings. And he's still sympathetic because Anthony Perkins is just amazing. He's so good as this character, and I just cannot help but love Norman Bates so much. And I love the relationship that he builds with the character played by Diana Scarwood. I actually really root for their romance. They're very cute. And there's also this other character staying at the hotel played by Jeff Fahey, Duke, who is so horrible that we can't help but contrast Duke with Norman, and just like Norman better, even though he's the serial killer. Now, Perkins actually directed this one. I think he did a great job. He made it a very flashy, stylistic 80s slasher movie while still paying a ton of homage to Alfred Hitchcock and direct kills that were in the first movie. But I think he rocked it, man. And I think Psycho 3 kind of rules. Bloodlust, Subspecies III, from 1994. The final film in the original Subspecies trilogy. These three movies are very closely connected, like one just follows up the other. In the first film, a woman gets bitten by a vampire. In the second one, she's trying to fight her new vampire identity, trying to find a way to help herself to not fall into this. By the third film, this is my favorite in the series, and the reason is she is really embraced her new identity as a vampire, and it's about her learning how to be a vampire and going under the wing of Radu, the main vampire villain of this series. And I think it is such a good version of that because, like, unlike something like, you know, Interview with the Vampire, which is a similar kind of thing, it doesn't try to beautify this at all. Like, it does not sugarcoat the fact that being a vampire is a horrible thing. It is grotesque. It's disgusting. It is a monstrous identity. And the movie embraces that and just leans into it. And I think it's really cool, man. I think it's really interesting. I just love Anders Kove as this monster. He's so creepy. He's got such a great look, such a scary voice. The film has beautiful gothic atmosphere, even though it takes place in present day. And it's still got a couple of good protagonists that are trying to help our leading vampire lady. So we're not just following monsters. We've also got some good people to anchor into. I think this movie is great, and so far, it is my favorite movie I've seen from Full Moon.
I must kill him. He is already dead. He is undead, Mr. Kent. He can be destroyed, but not killed.
Dracula, Prince of Darkness from 1966. My comments on this movie could very well compare to Friday the 13th Part 3, where I think this is the most basic, standard Dracula or gothic vampire movie in the Hammer Dracula series. I just think it does it really, really well. Now, because the second film in the series doesn't actually have Christopher Lee as Dracula, it just follows Peter Cushing's Van Helsing character, this one is the second film to have Dracula. So it actually opens with a flashback to the first movie and how Dracula died the first time. And this is the one where he's going to get resurrected. Now, it's a super standard story about some travelers who end up stranded out in the middle of nowhere, and they have to go up to the spooky castle for lodgings. And when you know it, Dracula's there. Well, technically a servant of Dracula and Dracula's remains. He's got to get resurrected, as he does in pretty much all these movies. This is his best resurrection sequence. It's violent, grotesque. It is so visually awesome. Like, I just love that. Christopher Lee is amazing here as Dracula while never speaking a word. That's probably one of the most notable things about the film. He's just a beast. It's like dying and being disintegrated and then coming back to life. All of his humanity that he even had before is gone, and he is just a feral, snarling monster. And he's amazing, man. Like, he just looks like Christopher Lee in a cape, and he fully makes me believe he's one of the scariest monsters I've ever seen. Great supporting cast in here, too, with people like Andrew Keir and Barbara Shelley and Francis Matthews. This is a super standard Hammer vampire movie, but it just executes it brilliantly. Number 8, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors from 1987. Definitely one of the most classic horror sequels ever made. And quick disclaimer about me and this franchise, I hold the first movie by Wes Craven in the highest of regard. I think it is such a classic, such a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. And I don't feel that way about any of the sequels, but I still think it's great. And I think one of the greatest things about it for me is it's so rewatchable. Like, I've seen it a lot of times and it hasn't really gotten old because it's just so entertaining, man. I mean, Robert Englund, he rules in here as Freddy. Like, he's still kind of scary, but he's bringing in the comedy. He's got those great one-liners that we all know and love today. He's so good. We got a solid group of characters here. I don't love Patricia Arquette as Kristen as much as some other protagonists in the series, but we've got Heather Langenkamp back, John Saxon, and the film really established the formula that it would take for the remainder of the series, having a group of kids who all have some kind of weird quirk to them, and Freddy using that specific quirk against them in their dream to kill them. There's some horrible kills in here. I mean, some just gnarly stuff that is incredibly iconic, some awesome special effects that I just love. Dream Warriors is an incredibly fun horror thrill ride of an experience.
Count Alucard is immortal. Through him, I attained immortality. Through me, you will do the same.
Number 7, Son of Dracula from 1943. This is about Carpathian Count Alucard being invited to the US by a young woman and him taking over her and her family's lives. And hey, maybe he's Dracula. I know I'm a weird one for rating this one so highly. I just can't deny that I super love this movie. The Universal Monsters, just one of my favorite runs in all of cinema, and I think this one is one of the best. It's one of the most purely interesting. While a lot of Universal Monsters movies have great monsters, but struggle a bit in protagonists, this one's got really interesting protagonists, with a young woman absolutely obsessed with the death and the occult. She's an early version of a goth, basically. There were goths before the aesthetic really got in. And it's just interesting watching her go under the spell of Dracula, watching her boyfriend and her family struggle with this and try to help her, but feeling powerless against this vampire monster. Now, I will acknowledge the vampire is played by Lon Chaney Jr. He's not great. He's way too American to play a Carpathian ancient count. But, with some suspension of disbelief, I do think he does a good job, as good of a job as he could, at playing a Dracula character. You've got incredibly lush Southern Gothic atmosphere, fog, Dracula floating in such a creepy way. I really think this is one of the best Universal Monsters movies, and I wish it would get that credit a little more often. Number 6, 28 Years Later from 2025. This is the brand new addition to the 28 Days Later franchise, and it fully takes the series into a post-apocalyptic place, with Britain being cut off from the world, ravaged by this plague, and it follows some people who are trying to survive here and a young boy who's trying to help his sick mother. So far, this movie has been incredibly divisive, and there are a lot of people who hate this movie and are gonna think I'm insane for placing it so high on this list. But I loved it. I had an incredible time watching this movie. I think it's really emotionally powerful. Like, I loved the story of just focusing on this young boy living this very difficult life and watching his complicated relationship with his parents and him trying desperately to save his mother by any means necessary. And yes, doing some crazy stuff to try to save her. But remember, he is a kid fighting for the life of his mom. The movie is really intense. It's got some super violent stuff, while not exactly being as gory as a lot of modern zombie movies are, which I think maybe threw some people off. I think it's more focused on tension, and there was some seriously heart-pounding sequences in here for me. And I love that it was a film that focused on character drama, on a coming of age kind of story, on relationships and emotions. And one of the best Ralph Fiennes performances I've ever seen. Like, he is spectacularly good here. A character that really subverts expectations, as a lot of this movie does, but I think becomes something more emotionally resonant. I've heard some criticisms of this, that there's not a lot of story here, and it just feels like a setup for a trilogy to come. I don't agree with that, because I think the themes and the emotions are very much reach a full circle here and gave me a very satisfying movie experience. And then a lot of people complain about the last 2 minutes, and I get it. It's super weird. I think Danny Boyle would have been better off if he put it as a mid-credit sequence, Marvel style, but a weird final 2 minutes is certainly not enough to tank a resonant, powerful, intense experience like this.
The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. Happy Halloween.
Stop it! Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Cracking into the top 5, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch from 1982. Tom Atkins, need I say more? All right, I'll say a little more. Now, this is the poster child for a sequel that has no business being in the franchise and makes no sense to be in the franchise at all, because this is the one Halloween movie that has nothing to do with Michael Myers, Haddonfield, Dr. Loomis. Now, I will admit, I wasn't around in 1982, and I never had the experience of watching this and being surprised and disappointed that Michael Myers wasn't in it. I knew its reputation and what it was when I first checked it out. An experiment where they tried to make the Halloween franchise an anthology series. It did not work out. This movie was not successful at all. And ultimately, I'm glad it wasn't successful, because I would rather the Halloween franchise be about Michael Myers than just be random stories. I mean, movies in general are random stories. We're getting random stories all the time. But that doesn't change the fact that I embrace this movie with all my heart. I absolutely love it. It is such a good, cheesy slice of 80s horror fun, following Tom Atkins as just this like basic divorced beer drinking dad who stumbles upon this absolutely insane conspiracy involving Halloween masks and destroying practically all of the children of the world. Like, the plot here is nuts, but I love going along for the ride, man. I love following Tom Atkins and Ellie.
I can sleep in the car.
Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?
That's a dumb question, Miss Grimpage.
As they uncover this conspiracy, this mystery, and the movie's just got one of the best Halloween holiday feels of any movie ever made. Number 4, Return of the Living Dead 3 from 1993. I think this is my favorite movie in the Return of the Living Dead series. The first one is awesome. It is a super fun zombie movie. The second one I've actually come around on a lot. It's silly and ridiculous, but it's a good time. This one is very different. It's way more serious than the first two, and I find it very emotionally powerful in a really surprising way. It actually centers on a romance, two young lovers who are very happy together, and the woman tragically passes away in an accident, and they break into this facility where she may be able to be brought back to life. Like the first film set up the concept of people very slowly turning into zombies, this one carries that, but doesn't play it out for comedy at all. Very much plays it out as sad, as disturbing, as something horrible happening to you. And the lengths that this character goes to hold back the pain that makes her crave brains to fully turn into a zombie is nuts, man. It's crazy. It's disturbing stuff, but it certainly created a very iconic image for this film. I love the special effects of this so much. It's got some of the most creative and grotesque zombie practical effects I've ever seen in my life. And I just find it to be like just scary, emotional, intense. I think it is a great, great horror sequel.
You know your shoelace is untied.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick.
Army of Darkness.
Breaking into the top 3, Army of Darkness from 1992. Man, what can be said about Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness that hasn't already been said? It is such a cult classic of the highest order, a movie that I love so much. The third film in the Evil Dead series, and man, it switches things up. No longer is this a cabin in the woods horror movie, but Ash has time traveled to the Middle Ages and has to fight off Deadites there. Granted, it's less of a horror movie than the first two. It's a little bit more dark fantasy, action, adventure kind of thing, but it rules, man. It is so awesome. It's so funny. Like Bruce Campbell, this is where he fully goes full comedy Ash that he was inching towards in Evil Dead 2. And he's just hilarious here. This is Bruce Campbell's persona perfected. Best it's ever been. And what I think is so remarkable about it is he's ridiculous. He's dumb. He's funny. He's a buffoon. But he's still awesome. And like we still really root for him and pump our fists at him. Hail to the king, baby. He is all the way. It's just got so many great gags, so much energy, so many amazing practical effects. I've always loved Army of Darkness ever since I first saw it when I was a kid. And I actually got the chance to see it in a theater once. And it's one of the funniest theatrical experiences I've ever seen in my life.
George A. Romero's Day of the Dead.
The runner-up, Day of the Dead from 1985. The third film in George Romero's original Dead trilogy. Something that I really respect about George Romero when he's making zombie movies is he's always trying to push forward the ideas. And like, he's not satisfied to just make a basic zombie movie. The way he has this scientist character performing these experiments, trying to find the humanity in zombies, or more so maybe just trying to control them, knowing that at this point humanity will never outnumber the zombies, but can they make them less dangerous? That's what makes the bub character, the zombie, so interesting. This is a much smaller movie than Romero intended. He wanted to do something much bigger, but he was unwilling to compromise and make this R-rated. He wanted to push the gore as far as he could, getting him an X rating, which really slashed the budget down. But I think he still made such a fantastic film. I love watching these characters interact in this underground bunker, trying to find solutions to this zombie epidemic. A lot of them are unlikable. There's a lot of yelling at each other, a lot of cursing, but they're interesting, and I enjoy watching their conversations, them try to deal with this horrible life that they now have. And I do think Day of the Dead is the pinnacle of zombie special effects and gore effects ever put to screen. These are the coolest looking zombies I've ever seen in my life. The gore is horrific. It is so intense. It's so gnarly. Tom Savini, shout out. But I think it makes for such a phenomenal movie. One of my favorite zombie films of all time.
And Jesus said to the man who was possessed, "What is your name?" And he answered, "Legion."
But number 1, The Exorcist III from 1990. Now, I will admit, I've never seen The Exorcist II. That's got to be one of the most universally hated movies of all time, and I just never brought myself to watch it. One day that day will come. But The Exorcist III, this is like the true Exorcist sequel, and it's actually my personal favorite Exorcist movie. I actually like it even better than the original. It feels so evil, so demonic in a way that I almost can't describe. I just find it to be so unsettling, so creepy. I love the story here, how it's about a detective played by George C. Scott, one of my favorite actors. George C. Scott is the best, who's trying to solve the case of this serial killer. And wouldn't you know it, it involves demons, it involves possession. And I do admit, I just like the idea of using demon possession as a vehicle for a serial killer story a little bit better than the standard kind of possession story that we get in the original. That's a great movie, but I just like the plot here better. I find it a little bit more interesting. There is so much dark, foreboding atmosphere and imagery to this thing, an incredible supporting performance from Brad Dourif. And even though it's got a lot of changes, there's also like an original cut of the movie you can watch called Legion. I still think the movie totally works. Like, isn't a typical Exorcist sequence a little bit shoehorned in here? Maybe, but it works for me, man. I think it's all great. So The Exorcist III is one of my favorite horror movies, and it's gotta be the best horror part 3 of all time. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and if anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Oglethorpe, Kaz Atkinson, and Justin Newman. You guys absolutely rule. So that's my list, but what are your favorite horror part 3s of all time? And if you can rank them, I would love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know with a like and comment so I know that you want a ranking of horror part 4s, because I would certainly love to do it. If you want to hang out with me more, you can click the video on the screen. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today. Have some fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.